But yeah,
No
go
problem.
for it. We can kick it off.
Cool. So, context for the listeners is Nibiru partnered with Notifi to add notification support, which you may have seen in the web application. So, this is just a chat to learn more about the founders and team members on the Notify team, and then also just more about their product offering. Cool. So, I guess let's just start with can you guys introduce Notify? What is it?
Sure. Yeah. Let me introduce myself too first, just for the audience and whoever's listening. My name is Paul. I'm one of the co-founders of Notify. My background's mostly been in Web 2. Worked at most of the FANGs. I've done like a fair share of my tour there. Worked at AWS, Microsoft one point of my life, and worked at Oracle Cloud. Um, and came over to build out this product called Notify because we saw like an opportunity slash gap in just communication tooling for Web3 projects and users. I think most of us know like Twitter and Discord as like the only means of communication for projects and users, but we always thought that there was something going back to basics of providing things like more insights, but also like programmatic messaging, things that are happening on chain that you don't normally get to see too much of, to be persisted in channels that you're familiar with. So sometimes you do want a liquidation notification, or proposal alerts that are sent to your email because you check them more regularly than anything else. So Notify provides a lot of the tooling and infrastructure for on-chain monitoring and messaging to actually happen, so that users can kind of be a little bit more uh, accustomed to kind of the Web 2 experiences that they spent the last whatever 15, 20 years experiencing.
Got it. And so, how did you guys come up with the idea to get started on it? And what were the early days of Notify like?
Yeah. So I think the reason why we got started was I came into DeFi around like the tail end of DeFi summer, got really excited about it, and it was definitely a big learning curve for everybody coming in. And I thought that in order to get this or to unlock the next kind of big user adoption, things have to be simpler. And it's hard to navigate if you're not really like Web3 native. So in order to get like my parents or my friends or my family to kind of like convert over, I just thought that there had to be a better way to stay connected to things that are happening on the blockchain. And we wanted to start with how do we enable like better customer experiences, and that's a place that we feel pretty passionate about. So it was very easy to kind of think about like, okay, well, we love middleware. We love helping other projects. That's kind of like our affinity. If we can also like, push forward, enhancing customer experiences, why wouldn't we want to do this place? Play in this space because it's something that we, feel always super passionate about, and it's something that connects users together. So that was one of the main reasons why we thought that, this area needed to be, built out in order for more adoption to happen. But of course, at the same time, it's a crucial area that it's kind of a chicken or egg problem, right? If infrastructure like this isn't available and user experiences aren't given and built in a similar manner, it's always going to be always difficult to onboard the next batch of folks. So we saw it as like a perfect storm for us of specializing it, but also feeling super passionate about helping the community, and pushing the utility of a blockchain even further is like a added bonus.
Did you find that with what you thought the project would become on its initial onset and what it is now, it's similar to your initial idea, or did you guys kind of like evolve the like strategy or your approach over time?
Well, it's definitely evolving. I think everything in crypto moves so quickly. When we started, like just for context of like the scale of changes, when we first started, we started on Solana and Terra. You know, That was our first two chains that we wanted to like support the tooling for. And this is like last April, I guess. Um, so we had like a firm definition of what the product or the vision of the product should be, and how like we're kind of addressing a lot of the gaps in user experience. That's never changed. But what has changed is really about, things about like what other tools that we have to add or education that we have to give, and bringing projects who require the tool, but also consumers who are starting to like experience other ways of comms, is like, it's something that's ever it's been evolving every quarter, right? Even the chains that we initially identified to push forward, some of them are here and some of them aren't here, but we always saw ourselves as very chain agnostic, and we thought that communication infra should be pretty much available to any blockchain. So like core principles like that haven't changed. I guess it's really around like the details of the execution that has been a little bit different.
Got it. Got it. Cool. So I guess what are the different communication channels that people can use with Notify? I know you mentioned like governance and announcements and like different on-chain interactions. I guess what sorts of ways do people get notifications, and then what are the different areas they can get them?
Yeah, so we initially started our very first POC was a governance proposal tool for one of the bigger, I guess, like the biggest DAO platforms on Solana, and essentially it was like very simply the problem was, how do we increase voter participation, right? Because there's always a quorum that needs to be met sometimes for some of these proposals. And previously, before, like it just wasn't meeting any sort of, like it was getting like 5%, 7% turnout, right? So like DAOs weren't super efficient in that sense. So one of our first POCs was just simply just do like a proposal alert and a reminder that it was like expiring or you haven't voted, to come vote. And we did that through email and I think SMS. Those were our first two channels that we supported. And this is like very much controversial at that time, because a lot of folks believe that nobody wanted these communication channels, that doxing or whatever was something that people just wasn't a big favor of. But with that POC, I think we had something crazy in terms of like we got like 3,000, 4,000 users who signed up in a period of a week. Voter participation like tripled. So it turned out like people, if it was helping their use case, like it's like if you're buying governance tokens for a project, you want to be informed. So nobody really had any hesitation on providing these like channels or these like emails or phone numbers to get this information. In fact, people were kind of the opposite. They were like they wanted it and they were demanding this, much to kind of like the, I guess, surprise of a lot of like crypto theses, right? And it turns out, I think, when we see this, kind of like proliferate a little bit more so in the world of DeFi, it happens the same way too. I think people who, have this idea that like, not taking too much monitoring or like not taking too much proactive measure of seeing your positions and stuff in DeFi it's kind of missing a component. People just assume that it just never happened, but it doesn't mean that people didn't want it, right? And I think that's been happening for us a lot more, and we've been getting asks and requests to do more types of alerts, whether it be order fills, limit orders. There's a whole plethora of different like DeFi use cases that people are just familiar with in different centralized exchanges or any kind of like portfolio management tool. So we're getting a lot of those asks to go deeper into some of these like alerts, but also like adding additional support for different channels. Our biggest request has been Telegram in the last, like, I think year and a half. And now like 30-40% of our volume comes through Telegram in terms of like preferred channels. Like we give users the option to choose how many they want, and they simply always kind of go with email and Telegram as like one of the two biggest participations. Discord is something that we also support, so if you want alerts to your Discord channel, you can get it that way as well. We're supporting things like Twitter as a communication channel too, but our thesis and our promise was that we will continue to add more and more user channels that people are asking for, and we don't dictate how you want to get alerts. Like everyone has their own preference, everyone uses their own tools, how they want to actually consume the data, and we just give optionality to everybody to get as many notifications across different channels as you want.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm curious though, across with that many different platforms you're supporting, and then, you know, obviously you support a lot more L1s and L2s that are like EVM and non-EVM since since the early days, like now, Notify's got support on a ton of chains. How do you guys kind of like manage being compatible with so many different stacks? Or like what's kind of the architecture that supports all this?
Yeah, I think it's always definitely been a challenge for scaling, and that's kind of the interesting problem and area that we kind of tackle. To simply kind of answer this question, though, like I guess our original architecture and our solution was always oriented around multi-chain or chain agnostic. So we always made sure that that was like our core tenant that we kind of like built our product around. And I think that's one of the biggest things that is very challenging for a lot of projects out there, is that sometimes like back 2 years ago plus, everyone was a little bit more tribal, and this singular chain monotheistic approach of building for one was the only reason, like the only like practical idea then, right? So like when you support multi-chains, I think your entire solution and design has to be re-architected. So we kind of work backwards from what we thought was the end state, which is like we're gonna support multi-chain. Notify will be across whatever 100 plus in the future. So our architecture wasn't too bad. Like we built it so that we could scale this. And I think that's what's been kind of our secret sauce, is that we've always had a plan in terms of how we built and what our solutions could do. So therefore, like it wasn't always an issue expanding into things. It was always built purposely for that. And supporting a new chain honestly takes us somewhere around 2 to 3 weeks at the most. I mean, if it's EVM, it's even simpler, right? And I think that's been kind of the most interesting aspect of kind of Web3, is that there's a lot of similarities in kind of Web2. And I think if you plan ahead and you make the right bets, sometimes it's a lot easier to kind of scale up.
Got it. What would you say kind of sets Notify apart from other like similar products?
I think we look to optimize like a very user-centric product approach. So we believe, I mean, I guess it's like a more Web 2 principle, is that, we're infra providers or service providers or tooling, right? And tooling should never be kind of forefront. If we do our jobs correctly, like nobody should know that Notify powers any project slash consumer notification, right? Like consumers should never know, right? And that's kind of how we built our product structure around, is that, when users go into like, a product, on Nibiru, they see it as like a notification natively on their UI, and they just see it as like any other notification preference that they would have in Web 2, right? Like if you go to Uber and you sign up for alerts, or you go to, I don't know, like your Robinhood and sign up for notifications, you don't know it's being powered by other providers or other infrastructure services, right? And we call that like being first class native, to be very customer centric. And I think we try to optimize and build our product around that, right? The relationship that a notification service provider has with the consumer is always via the project or the company, right? Um, and I think a lot of our like Web3 like parallels kind of go the opposite way. Is that like composability is big, but from a UI perspective, and I think that's something that we don't really kind of subscribe to, is that composability should be at the infrastructure level. It should never be from a user experience level. All right. And that doesn't really scale at the same time. So where we kind of differentiate a lot and we programmatically build our product around is that, one day, like, I think today we have a logo that says powered by Notify, but at the end of the day, like that should never be that, right? Like you could remove that and customers shouldn't care and wouldn't care. They just know that they're getting alerts from Nibiru, they're getting alerts from Uber, or Twitter or whatever it is, right? There should be no like middleman in a sense, right? And I think that's kind of where we built a lot of our product structure around, and we provide that at like a scalable solution. And yeah, that's been kind of like our secret sauce.
Yeah, I especially noticed like one of the things we found early with meeting you guys was like it is really custom catered more so than like a I think it was like dialect and then Ethereum push notification service. I guess were
Mhm.
like close things in my head. Um, but yeah, Notify supports like basically anything you could monitor. Like if you can think of how to programmatically get it, then you can make a notification for it, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how that's like an early thesis that we had, was that eventually I think also the weird thing in Web3 is that not many things are monitored. Even though it's like on chain, I think because it's on chain, folks don't think about like actually indexing it, right? And because they don't index it, it's hard to alert or notify anybody on top of that, right? And that's kind of like the unique angle that we also kind of saw early, was that a lot of projects don't have like their own database tracking different statuses or orders and transactions. It's like the database is it's Web3, it's decentralized, it's on chain. And I think that's what we realized, was that if we're gonna do this do this product in this space, that we would have to provide a lot of like the end-to-end tooling to support a last mile notification to the user. And that's why we went super custom, or provided a lot of custom dynamics, so that people can pick and choose how they want to craft the alert to eventually get a user message to them.
I see. And how has the feedback been so far? Does it like through what avenues do you get to ask people and kind of have that dictate your future roadmap?
Yeah, love to kind of chip into this. And I think Alex can probably give a little more background. He's our chief product officer, and he's the one kind of like, setting the roadmap direction. But for kind of like our perspective, we like to be as close to our customers as possible. I think we bring a lot of that principle, like understanding of discerning, how to, figure out collectively what our product is doing and how we can best fit or kind of address any problems or requests from our user base. And I think that's kind of maybe a little bit different. Like I think, you know, um, being customer obsessed and having feedback loops to provide directional insights about where we're trying to go and how we're trying to get there together, um, maybe a little bit different, I guess, in kind of like the B2B space. Like for us, projects are our customer, so there's less projects than there are consumers, right? Like we don't need a Discord server or a community to manage feedback coming into our product. We can go directly to our customers, and we distinctly know who they are and how to reach out to them in the frequency. But yeah, maybe Alex can kind of give a little bit more insight into kind of like the how we kind of scale this out.
Yeah, and yeah, good to meet y'all. So Unique, are you looking for, I guess, how we get feedback or plans for future?
Um, I mean, you can take it in either direction. I guess one thing I was looking into is how do you know what to build across time, I guess.
Yeah. I think, Paul alluded to like being a B2B company makes it a bit easier. We have hypotheses on where things are going, like, cross-chain, multi-channel communication, bringing some of the best of our Web2 experience and into Web3 and DeFi specifically. Like frankly, I like the biggest sales pitch that often works works for me is, we need to level up DeFi to where CeFi is today, right? User experience is amazing. It's super fast from the notifications and engagement standpoint. It all works really well. Re-engaging your users, bringing them back, stealing them from other competitors. So we take a lot of these core principles and then we kind of socialize it with the team and evangelize it, and I guess with the teams we work with. And yeah, that's really been the direction. I think, fortunate for us, there's like a really nice roadmap on how the world has been dealing with engagement, acquisition, notifications for many years. So, we try to push everyone we work with to go down this path, and sometimes it sticks, and sometimes it doesn't make sense actually in Web3.
Got it. So in terms of like, um, let's say on your site, there's developers, marketers, and individuals. There's like the breakdown. What are the,
Hmm.
we largely talked about like, I think developers and individuals. How does it cater to marketers when you're actually working with Notifi?
Yeah, so right, our core product is the ability to go and send real time, really tailored, personal one-to-one messages to your users. Um, and so, we think it's time that Web3 marketers really like step it up and use our tooling. There's so much available data on chain to learn about what your users are doing, what's important, who's really a whale, who's not. And we give the ability for a marketer to go and blast these messages and these announcements to all your users. So, um, viewership is going to be much higher than just posting randomly on Twitter and hoping someone just like happened to be on at that time or set an alert. As well as the ability to send something really tailored to a unique subset of audiences. Like, maybe, Jesse wants to send something to just your whales who hold more than, whatever atom, or have transacted more than like $50,000 in the last couple of days. Right, so we give that power to her and to marketers as well. And this goes to where we think Web3 needs to evolve. It needs to kind of level up in our engagement, your ability to be really targeted. And so, yeah, we take that power and we give it to anyone who wants to use it. And we see adoption here increasing pretty rapidly.
Do you get to, what sort of analytics do you get for the notifications you have?
Yeah, so we provide data back on every notification that's been sent, and we don't have like the actual user data in it, but it's like this template went to this wallet address, and this wallet address is subscribed to X notifications across X different channels or destinations. So we give all that, I guess, power back, and then also on the email front, for any wallet or any DApp that wants it, you can see read receipts as well of email addresses. So you can know that 30% of users actually like opened and clicked on this specific email that a marketer may have sent.
Got it. Very cool. I guess for as we're kind of wrapping up here, um, what would be kind of like a closing remark you guys would want to say to, I guess, the listeners, users, or maybe potential partners?
Yeah, we think obviously this is the future and a very important step in of easing the usability for all Web3 and really bringing DeFi up to par with, frankly, your bank in a weird way to say that, or Schwab. So yeah, we think this is like really a table stakes feature that everyone needs and should add. And I think we've seen a lot of traction in the market from it. If you're interested in checking us out, just go to our website, notify.network. You can see our GitHub. You can self-integrate. We're happy to go chat with you as well. And so you can find everything on our website. It's pretty easy.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks again for joining and letting us learn about what you're doing.
Great, I appreciate it. Thanks for coordinating this.
Cool. And then I guess if one of the audience members, if you guys have a quick question, we can do that live. And say going once, going twice. All right, guys.
Awesome.
I guess we'll end it here.
Thanks, Unique.
Thanks, everyone.